Hello and welcome back to another episode of Pokemon Pocket, where I'm going to be taking a look at some decks that I built, particularly around the new Mew Ex Card. I'm so excited for this card. I recently found out through some of you guys commenting on my last video and scrolling through the subreddit that apparently this card is not going to work like Ditto. So you don't need to discard Fire or Psychic Energy when going up against Mewtwo or Charizard, allegedly. However, if you are using Psychic and Fire Energy, the attack will still discard them, but they are not required, I guess. I don't know how it's going to work. That's what I've been told, so I'm going to go with that. And I wanted to build decks because I think this card is going to be amazing. So I've built 5 decks around Mew EX, and in the next couple of days, I'll probably make another couple of videos like this, maybe with some of the other cards that have been leaked / revealed in the trailer. But there's nothing too special, and the set releases on Tuesday, so at most I'll make 2 more of these for tomorrow. I think maybe tomorrow and Tuesday, and then either Tuesday night will be a pack opening video, or I'll upload it on Wednesday morning. But I have some hourglasses saved up, so we're gonna make some fun stuff. But anyway, let's hop in to the 5 decks that I want to try out the most with this new Mew EX card. Up first is Alakazam. Now, if you guys have watched the channel, Alakazam is my favorite card in this game. It's so fun to use. It takes the amount of energy that your opponent has attached to their Pokemon, and it does 60 damage plus 30 for each of those energies. So it one-shots almost everything in the game. It can one-shot a Venusaur that's fully charged up with Giovanni. It can one-shot Dragonite. The only things it has trouble one-shotting is Charizard and Mewtwo because they discard energy. And that is where this beautiful, beautiful Mew comes in. So you do a little bit of chip damage, which, by the way, Alakazam works pretty well against Mewtwo EX if you use dual energy. You do a little bit of chip damage with the Wheezing, and then bang, you're putting in the Alakazam for an easy one-shot KO most of the time. But you can also use this Mewtwo if the move works the way that people are telling me that it works. It'll be the card that's put in decks specifically to counter Mewtwo and Charizard. So I'm super excited, and it makes sense that this card is the most OP because, again, it's like the cover card. So this will be my chase card in the set. I'm hoping to get 2, but at the very least I want 1. I'll be saving pack points. I'm not spending any pack points on anything else in this set until I get this Mew EX. So Alakazam, by far the deck I'm most excited to try this card out in. So that's my number 1 deck. Let's hop into the number 2 deck. My number 2 deck is, of course, my second favorite Pokemon in this game, and that is Melmetal. Again, nothing really changes with this deck. It is just we put a Mew in there. So we have 1 Sabrina. I've recently learned that if you have 2 Sabrinas, apparently it can mess up your game a lot because you feel like you might need to play 1 to not waste 1. So a lot of the most successful decks only run 1 Sabrina. Now, Melmetal already one-shots things like Pikachu EX. It can one-shot a Starmie EX with a Giovanni, of course. But having the Mewtwo that you're powering up on the bench, or if you know you're going up against a Charizard right off the bat or a Fire deck that Melmetal is weak to, having this Mew that can come in, like, you can do 90 damage from Ninetales attack. Like, yes, it sucks that it would take you an extra energy to level that up, but you one-shot that Ninetales. You can one-shot Charizard using Charizard's own move, and you're doing it for 1 less energy than Charizard is doing it for. Obviously, Charizard can ramp, but your whole goal here is to just wait until they put that Charizard in the active spot. So hopefully you're doing decent damage with Coughing Wheezing at this point, or powering up a Melmetal and scaring them with a Mew. But anyway, yeah, I think this Mew EX, I think this changes the game for so many cards in just a way that it gives you a little bit of flexibility. A basically colorless card. I know Mew is psychic, but it doesn't require any specific energy to do its attack. And so it makes cards like Melmetal so much more viable because you can still use Melmetal to one-shot most things like Pikachu EX and Starmie EX with Giovanni. But you also have a Mew in the deck that you can switch to in case of running into a Charizard, or even like a Mewtwo EX can be difficult for Melmetal if it gets set up on time. So I even think 2 Mews in this deck could work. I just don't know what I would take out. Like, you need the 2 X speeds, maybe a potion because Melmetal has the hard coat, but I don't know. I'll test it out a little bit as soon as I get this Mew, but I'm super, super excited. I think Melmetal could make a really, really big jump. I think Mew is going to help out just so many unusable Pokemon, either because of synergy or just because it'll be a coverage for that Pokemon that it doesn't currently have. So super, super excited. Melmetal, number 2 deck. Let's see what number 3 is. The third deck I'm most excited to see this new Mew Ex Card in is, of course, Mewtwo. It's actually a deck that I've not been able to run myself because I haven't gotten any Kirlias or Gardevoirs. But this is going to be such an insane deck, and you really only need... So I put 2 copies of Mew in here, but now that I'm thinking about it, you really only need 1. The only card that you're really, really concerned about is maybe a Charizard. Like anything else, even like a Venusaur, you're hoping that you've done a little bit of chip damage or that by the time it's set up, you're ready to do side drive. But Mew can come in, could help counter a Venusaur, although Venusaur's attack doesn't one-shot itself like Charizard's does. So you might only need 1 Mew EX in this deck. I'm not 100% sure yet, again, because I haven't been able to run Mewtwo EX myself because I don't have the cards yet. But I think that this is the deck people are most excited to see it in. If you put Mew EX on the bench and attach a single energy to it, it is ready to go if you have a Gardevoir, right? And I think that's what makes it so scary is Gardevoir's attack. So if you're powering up your Mewtwo EX, doing your basic, your 50 damage here and there, maybe a side drive, you just... Once you're all set up, ready to go, you just throw an energy on Mew EX, and then if you ever need to retreat out into it and you have that Gardevoir on the bench, boom, you're ready to go. You attach the 2 extra energy with, Gardevoir's ability, and it's ready to attack. So I think this deck is the meta deck that, gets the most benefit from Mew EX. Charizard being a stage 2 deck as well with Moltres and now running Arcanine. There's not really room for another deck, although the Charizard deck is nice because it, it's a combat against the other 2 meta decks anyway. So I am excited. I think it's a little unfortunate. I mean, they weren't going to make Mew anything other than Psychic, but the fact that it's a Psychic Pokemon and can, positively benefit from Gardevoir's ability, I think that makes this card, it's going to be awesome to see in Mewtwo decks, but it's going to be so frustrating to play against. But let's check out deck number 4. The 4th deck I'm excited to see this Mew EX card is another meta deck, and that is Pikachu. Now this one might seem a little controversial, or it doesn't seem to make any sense. There's no real synergy because Pikachu EX needs its bench filled with lightning Pokemon. So I tried to correct for that and put as many lightning Pokemon as I can in here. There's only 1 Mew EX, and the big reason for that is really just because if the game gets going past like turn really 6 or 7 for Pikachu EX, it is not really doing enough damage without a bigger hitter. That's usually why Zapdos is in here. Zapdos can be helpful, but you're relying on coin flips. Most of the time, you're only doing 50 or 100 damage, which is still really not enough to knock out a lot of Pokemon that are fully healthy late on in the game. So Mew EX comes in, you attach, if you see something that you might be playing against, like a Charizard, like a Mewtwo. Now, I wouldn't recommend maybe playing Mew first turn because, yes, then the most damage output you can do with Pikachu is 60. But if you're playing a fire deck, you're playing a psychic deck, maybe in tournament play when you know who you're going up against, like, oh, I'm playing a Mewtwo deck, so glad I have this Mew. I know what I'm trying to play. I think in tournament play, a Mew EX in a Pikachu deck could actually be very, very interesting. I'm also very curious. So I'm assuming anything other than discarding energy still has to happen. So like if you run in a mirror match into another Pikachu EX deck and you have Mew EX and you want to do Circle Circuit, it would still do 90 damage because you would still have your bench hopefully filled with other lightning Pokemon. So it could be like a slightly tankier Pikachu with 10 more HP. Obviously, it takes an extra turn to get its move online, but if you can power up another Pikachu, start just bouncing energy around, it could be interesting. I kept Raichu out of this deck. That's what concerns me. Raichu, I think, is the number 1 Pikachu deck right now, and having to take Raichu out to kind of put Mew in and get some room for some other cards in there. I don't know. This one is the one I'm curious about, but that's why I want to see it. It's a deck I want to see it in. I'm not saying any of these decks are going to be meta. Any of these decks are going to be good. They could all turn out to be really, really bad for all I know, but I'm just curious to see how Mew EX will change the meta for Pikachu, because Pikachu needs those lightning Pokemon on the bench. But in a mirror match, it could be interesting. I don't know, but I think it'll be interesting to see Mew EX in the Pikachu EX decks. But let's move on to the last deck of the video. And the fifth deck I'm excited to see this Mew EX card in is Wheezing Arbok. So this for me was the deck that I used, minus the Mew of course, for the 5-win event. And I think people forget, like, Arbok makes it so you can't retreat. The only card that can really get out of that is Wheezing with Koga. Like, even like Starmie EX's retreat is free, but that's cool. Like, you're not allowed to retreat with Arbok. And I think what Mew does, so Wheezing here of course with the 1 energy, but Wheezing gives you a stall, gives you plenty of time to set up. Arbok's only a stage 1. Mew is basic. I think you could even run 2 in here, but you want 2 Sabrinas in this deck as well. I actually only have 1. I think 1 could work. Maybe you add a second. It's a little tough. You could take out a potion for a Sabrina. That actually might be a good call. But the big thing here is sometimes, every now and again, there's a deck that you run into where you have Arbok and it just can't, it either doesn't get out fast enough very occasionally, or it's like a bigger Pokemon that's going to take 3 shots, and so you're letting them energy up. But if you have an Arbok ready and you trap them in the active spot, and then next turn they either knock you out, or maybe they can't knock you out, so you retreat into Mew, and let's say, I don't know, what would take 3 shots? Let's say Moltres EX takes 3 shots. You could put in your Mew EX. The hardest part, again, is going to be powering up your Mew EX in time. But it's also going to have some utility in the fact that, like, in a deck like this, if Mew EX is the first card that you draw, you can still attach 1 energy, do a little bit of chip damage, and you can attach energy to this card until you have something else set up. And you don't need to attach energy to Wheezing in this deck. It's just, it gives you some utility if you don't draw the cards right away to play these cards, and either give you a choice to where to put your energy, or giving you can put it on any card and it doesn't matter. I think the Genome attack being all colorless energy is so cool. And if it works the way that I've been told it will work, like, you guys can hear the glee in my voice. I think this deck changes the game this card changes the game for Alakazam, and I think it's going to change the meta. I had a different opinion in the last video because I thought, or I had been told, that it was going to work similar to Ditto. But if you don't need the exact required energy to run the side drive and the stuff like that, if you can just do any energy, this is going to be your 4th meta card. You might see decks that are just running Mew EX. You're probably going to see some Articuno Mew EX decks, stuff like that. This changes the game for almost every single deck and card in the game, because it just gives you, straight up for 3 energy, an immediate counter to whatever your opponent is playing, assuming that their Pokemon is evolved and has their big attack on the board. You just keep this on the bench to either scare away their big Pokemon or to knock out their big Pokemon when they eventually come in. So I'm super excited to see what this card brings to the game. That's all I have for y'all. There'll be way more decks. We're going to try this Mew card in probably every single deck, because I have never been so excited for a card in a game before. I've never played a TCG like this heavily, but anyway, I will catch y'all in the next episode. Red Raider Gator out. Peace.